Simple Tales presents Puss in Boots, a French fairy tale. Have you ever wondered whether fortune belongs to those born with riches or to those clever enough to create opportunity where none seems to exist? Many believe success comes from strength. Others believe it comes from luck. But the old storytellers of France whispered something different. A sharp mind, paired with unwavering loyalty, can change even the humblest life forever. This is the story of Puss in Boots. Long ago, there lived an old miller who worked hard all his life. When he finally passed away, his 3 sons gathered to divide the little he owned. The eldest inherited the mill. The second received the family's donkey. The youngest waited quietly, hoping there might still be something useful left. At last, all that remained was the family cat. The young man sighed. "My brothers have received a living," he murmured. "I have received a pet." The cat looked up calmly, as though slightly offended. "If you would be so kind," he said, "as to provide me with a sturdy pair of boots and a simple cloth sack, I promise you shall never regret your inheritance." The young man nearly dropped the cat.
"You can speak?"
"Quite well," replied the cat, "and if you trust me, I can do much more." The young man looked at his brothers, already counting their coins. He looked at the cat, whose green eyes held no doubt. "If I am to be ruined," he said quietly, "I would rather be ruined by trust than by despair." He spent his last few coins on the finest leather boots the village cobbler could make. When the boots were finished, the cat slipped them on with remarkable elegance. He slung the sack across his shoulder, tipped his hat politely, and set off down the road. His first destination was a meadow where rabbits often grazed. He filled his sack with fresh herbs and left it lying open beneath a tree. Soon, an unsuspecting rabbit hopped inside. The sack closed. The cat smiled. An excellent beginning. He carried the rabbit to the royal palace. The guards burst into laughter when they saw a cat requesting an audience with the king, but curiosity won. The king agreed to receive him. With a graceful bow, the cat presented the rabbit. "Your Majesty, please accept this humble gift from my noble master, the Marquis of Carabas." The king had never heard the name before. Still, the rabbit was splendid. He thanked the mysterious marquis and accepted the gift. Morning after morning, the cat returned, sometimes with pheasants, sometimes with partridges, sometimes with wild game caught through patience rather than force. Each gift came with the same respectful message. "From my master, the Marquis of Carabas." Before long, the king began speaking of this generous nobleman he had never met. The cat smiled whenever he heard the name repeated. A reputation, he knew, is often built long before a person arrives. One warm afternoon, the cat learned that the king and his daughter would soon travel beside the river. He hurried home. "Master," he said, "today you must trust me completely." The young man had learned that arguing with the cat rarely accomplished anything, so he followed him to the river. "Now," said the cat, "remove your clothes and step into the water." The young man hesitated. The current looked strong. "Into the water?" "Completely." Though his heart hammered, the young man obeyed. The water was cold, and the stones were slick. He waded in until the current tugged at his waist. Moments later, the royal carriage appeared. The cat began shouting at the top of his lungs. "Help! Help! The Marquis of Carabas is drowning." The king immediately ordered his guards into the river. They pulled the young man safely ashore, coughing and shivering. The princess leaned from the carriage. "Father," she said quietly, "he is freezing." Meanwhile, the cat had hidden his master's clothes beneath a nearby bush. When the guards searched for them, they found nothing. The cat sighed dramatically. "Terrible thieves have stolen my master's garments." The king frowned. "A nobleman should not remain in rags." He ordered magnificent robes from his own wardrobe to be brought immediately. Soon, the young man stood dressed in velvet and embroidered silk. The princess handed him a warm cloak herself. The mysterious Marquis of Carabas was far more handsome and far more human than she had imagined. As the royal carriage continued its journey, the cat raced ahead faster than the horses. He reached a group of farmers harvesting wheat. "If the king asks whose fields these are," he warned, "answer only this: they belong to the Marquis of Carabas. If you do otherwise, I cannot promise what will happen to your harvest." The frightened farmers eagerly agreed. Minutes later, the king rolled past. "Who owns these beautiful fields?" "The Marquis of Carabas," the workers answered together. The king nodded approvingly. "What an extraordinary estate!" The cat repeated the trick with shepherds grazing sheep on the hillside. Everywhere the royal procession traveled, the same answer greeted them: "The Marquis of Carabas." Field after field, meadow after meadow, all appeared to belong to him. At last, the cat arrived at a magnificent castle overlooking the valley. It belonged to a fearsome ogre whose wealth surpassed that of many kings. The ogre possessed another remarkable gift. He could transform himself into any creature he desired. The cat entered confidently. "I have heard," he said politely, "that your powers are unmatched." The ogre grinned. "Watch." In an instant, he became a roaring lion. The castle shook beneath the mighty beast. The cat leaped onto a high shelf, pretending to tremble. "Magnificent," he gasped. "When people spoke of your power, they did not exaggerate." The lion returned to his giant form, smiling proudly. "But surely," continued the cat, "becoming something enormous is easier than becoming something tiny." The ogre laughed. "You doubt me. Only a little. I can become anything. Even a mouse?" The ogre's eyes narrowed. "A mouse?" he growled. "That is beneath me." The cat yawned. "I thought so." The ogre's face darkened. "Watch carefully." In a blink, the giant vanished. A tiny grey mouse darted across the floor. The cat needed no second invitation. One swift leap, one snap, and the ogre was gone forever. The cat adjusted his boots and calmly opened the castle gates. Moments later, the royal carriage arrived. "Welcome," announced the cat with perfect dignity, "to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas." The king stared in amazement. The castle overlooked forests, rivers, villages, and fertile lands stretching beyond the horizon. He turned toward the young man. "My dear Marquis," he said warmly, "your generosity equals your prosperity." The princess smiled. "And your courage surpasses both." It was not long before the king gladly blessed their marriage. That evening, the young man sat with the cat by the fire. "I had nothing," he said, "and you gave me everything." The cat licked one paw. "You gave me boots when you had nothing else to give," he replied. "That was the moment I decided you were worth the trouble." The miller's youngest son, once convinced he possessed nothing of value, found himself living happily beside the princess. As for the clever cat, he became the most respected gentleman in the kingdom. He continued wearing his polished boots, and though he never again needed to hunt for survival, he was often found at his master's feet, not as a servant, but as a friend. The old storytellers of France never claimed that cleverness alone creates happiness. The cat succeeded because every plan he made served someone he cared about rather than himself. Intelligence without loyalty is only manipulation. But intelligence guided by loyalty becomes something far greater. It becomes love. Thank you for listening to Simple Tales. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more timeless tales from around the world. Until next time, may someone believe in your future long before you can see it yourself.